Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unboxing Umbraco 10. This is a bit of a special episode as we are actually releasing, or have released, a brand new major version of Umbraco. Just 8 months since the last one, so pretty exciting stuff. My name is Rune. I am the product communications producer at Umbraco. And joining me today are three wonderful colleagues, one of them twice actually. It's also quite interesting. That'll all make sense later. But should we make a quick introduction round, starting with you, Emma?
Sure. Cool. So I'm Emma. I work here at Umbraco HQ. I am the Director of Developer Relations, and I'm really excited to be joining my very first unboxing today. And would Bjarke like to go next?
Yes, my name is Bjarke. I'm head of CMS, leading the developer teams working on the open source CMS. Warren?
Yes, I'm Warren, and I work with Emma as one of the developer relations here at Umbraco. Get to hack and show all the cool stuff that Bjarke and all the wonderful other teams get to do. And yourself, Rune, who are you?
Well, I'm still Rune.
Good.
My last name is Strand. I've been with Umbraco for, 7 years now, I think, something like that. But none of that really matters on a day like this. Let's waste no more time. We've got quite a lot of ground to cover here with a new major release. So let's just kick things off by talking about, say, two subjects that are not, say, necessarily features of the new major release, but I think they're very important to talk about when we're talking about Umbraco 10. First off, Umbraco 10 is the first major on our new release cadence. So as you might have noticed in the last couple of years, we've been releasing minor versions of Umbraco every 6 weeks. And that's been pretty great. It's allowed us to add a lot of features and improvements on a regular basis. And it also allows people to set expectations for when new versions are coming out, so it's easier to plan for. And we've actually done the same thing with major releases. So not every 6 weeks though, that'll be every 6 months from now on. You can see you start sweating there, Bjarke, don't worry. 6 months, every 6 months. And it's actually the same purpose. So it is to make it more predictable for everyone using Umbraco. They're gonna know when there's a new major version of Umbraco coming. Previously, it was every 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
It was just random, wasn't it? I think we just chose a random number.
Yeah, and that also meant that these releases tended to grow quite a lot in size, contained quite a lot of breaking changes. Some of them new database structure, all of these things, and made them quite a big hurdle to cross for existing installations, and a lot of things to learn for starting new projects on them. So our hope is that with a 6 months release cadence for majors, there'll be at least most of them smaller in scope, making them easier to upgrade to, and making it easier for people to follow along. There's also, Bjarke, maybe you can talk a bit about this, but there's also another reason why we chose the 6 month interval for this. We're actually aligning a little bit with Microsoft, right?
Yes, so every year around mid of November, Microsoft will ship a new version of .NET. So, and every second year, that will be long-term support. So we align, and when we ship a version that is natively running on a long-term support, it will also be a long-term support version of Umbraco.
Yeah. And if you want to read more about this, you can go to the Product Knowledge Center on umbraco.com. Here we have a complete explanation of how semantic versioning works for Umbraco. pretty standardized, I would say. And you can also see the release cadence as it is planned right now. We are here at the moment, down at June 16th. And as you can see, things are going to chug along in the future with new minors every 6 weeks. And there'll be another major in November-ish, around there, right?
Be a new major the 1st of December.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Merry Christmas then, I guess.
Predictable, consistent, all the things that developers love.
Yeah. And there's also another thing we need to discuss before we dive into the release itself, and that is long-term support. Umbraco 10 is what is called an LTS release. Again, this is aligned with Microsoft's support policies, so they release an LTS version, major version, every 2 years, and we're going to do the same going forward. So Umbraco 10 is LTS, and Umbraco 13, if I recall correctly, will be the next LTS. And the underlying framework will also be LTS, so they're kind of following along each other there. What does LTS mean? Well, it means that the support for it is longer. So for what we call the support phase, where we are actively fixing, bug fixing and releasing patches, that's extended from 9 months on the normal releases to 24 months for LTS majors. And then on top of that, you get an extended 12 months of security updates. So that means that there's 3 years of support, say, for an LTS release. Yeah. And for this as well, you can head over to the Product Knowledge Center on .com, and you'll find a complete explanation of how LTS and end of life works for Umbraco releases going forward. Cool. So that was the what can you say, the fine print for the release or something like that. Let's kick it off with actually looking at what's in Umbraco 10. Bjarke, you have the first hot topic of the day.
Yes. So as you already mentioned, Umbraco 10 is running .NET 6, and .NET 6 enables new features from C#10. So I will showcase some of those. In general, I think all of them is improving maintainability. So this is just cool to have these features available now, and definitely something that developers will be happy about. So I'll try to show it. So this is just a empty Umbraco 10 project created from the template. If we look at the first thing, which is called file scope namespaces. So in this namespace is basically indenting the entire file. It is considered best practice to only have one namespace per file anyway. So now you can change it. So basically just adding a semicolon instead of the braces, and then the entire file will be the scope. So in this case, it actually means the entire file is 4 spaces less indented. And in this case, it actually means I will hit the recommended character size of this file instead of, like before, where it was a bit longer. So this is a simple thing, but at least in our code base, we have none files that contains 2 namespaces. So this is just a simple, cool feature. The next thing I think is worth mentioning is called global usings. And we already ship it with some of those. So maybe you realize there are no usings in the top here, which there was in Umbraco 9.
It looks a bit empty.
Yeah, and that's nice.
Or clean, I guess.
Yeah, clean.
So we add 2 namespaces automatically, but you can opt out of that if you add an item group with usings removed. And we also have implicit usings, which is adding all Microsoft's. So this is system and system link and all of those pretty normal namespaces.
I like that this is just leading to less and less boilerplate code.
Exactly. So as I said, this is something that makes developers happy by the end of the day. You can also add your own, again, an item group where you have using, include, and then whatever your namespace is called.
Nice.
There's also another way to do this, which I actually prefer, which is just adding a C# file. It can be named whatever, but global usings is a good name.
That's what
It's descriptive.
Yeah.
Now there's a new keyword called global.
Oh, nice.
So here I could say global using whatever. If I had this namespace, I can create a file using that. Like this. And of course, the demo gods is not happy. This is possible. I did it before.
I trust you.
The last new feature that I like is related to constants. So now you can actually use the $sign before your strings, so you can interpolate other constants into constants. So if we make a simple file constants, this could be something like this, and we would most likely have something data which look like this. So instead of duplicating this piece of code, we can now add a $sign and use this constant.
So obviously that used to work in strings, but now it's for constants.
Exactly.
As well.
All sorts of constants. It's just, again, a small feature, but the day you want to change this prefix, it is a lot less code that you have to hit, and you will most likely fail in the first attempt if you're not using such a feature.
Yeah. And you could definitely see cases where you have more than two constants that you're managing, right? So this seems really useful.
Yeah. That was the features of C#. I want to.
And that's C#9, is it, Bjarke? 10.
Yeah.
Cool.
Goes faster than I can keep track of, it really does.
Yeah. And one of the great things is that, like, none of this is actually Umbraco related as such. It is an outcome of us being on the latest version of .NET.
Exactly. So one of the benefits of having a fairly fast release cadence is to be up to date and bring these features to users of Umbraco.
Fantastic. Very cool.
Yeah, that's super cool.
All right. Now let's look at something more Umbraco related. Warren, you have one of the big ones here.
Yes. Cool. So I have brought along my trusty rusty Mac here, and I will share my screen and do some demos if I can figure out how to. Of course, Zoom wants to say that I haven't granted it system preferences.
5 minutes later.
Let's imagine that didn't happen. Right. So I've got the exciting thing. .NET or .NET, Umbraco 10 even, runs on a lovely Mac. How cool is that? You don't have to use Docker and all these fancy other tools. It just works. So the only thing I've done ahead of time is I've gone to the .NET site. So it's .net, which is a bit of a mouthful. And then I've gone to the download page, and then from my Mac, I'm still running an Intel chip, so hence the x64. But if you've got one of those shiny newer Macs, then the M1 ones, then obviously you're going to be running the ARM64. So with that installed, I can then go to the terminal and just double check I've got it installed, .NET -- version. And I've already set up the site and used the .NET new template. So I've got it installed and ready and followed the kind of the usual getting starting guides that we have on our documentation. So I can do .NET run from the terminal here. He says, it's perfect demo day today.
Did anyone make
There we go.
the
It's just been slowly doing its stuff. I blame Zoom.
You're also running it from source, right? So it takes a little longer.
Ah, perfect. It's got a grant, more things. There we go. And ta-da! Right, we're getting somewhere. So
Nice.
first of all, nice new installer background on brand with all of our other branding at the minute. So that's nice to see. But let's fill this in as the usual. Warren Buckley, Warren, as I fill this out, password 1234. Don't nick my password, please. But you can see down here, we've got database type, and you'll see that we have SQLite, and that's a new one. So we've dropped SQL CE, which is being deprecated. One, because it doesn't work on a Mac or Linux-based systems or Unix-based systems. So we've now in V10 decided that we're going to use SQLite because one, it's cross-platform. It's a file-based database similar to SQL CE, but it means that we can just run on a Mac natively here. I don't need to have Docker and SQL Server and all this fancy config that I used to do before, like a year ago. This now all just works out of the box. So I can choose SQLite. If I was running on Windows, I would potentially have some more options here. I could say local DB or SQL Server if I've got that available, but I'm not, so I'm running on Umbraco. I can change the database name. So if I go to change database configuration, you can see here are the other options. I can change it to a SQL Server. If it's hosted offsite away from my Mac, I can connect to that. Same with Azure and other places. I can change an Umbraco database name. So this is the name of the file on disk. We'll just do Umbraco 10. And then we'll click install. So I haven't installed anything else. It's literally .NET. I've just got a terminal and a browser. That's it in a minute. So we'll just let it do its stuff. And whilst it's doing that, we can just double check. And over, I have to now remember where it lives, but I'm sure Bjarke can correct me if I'm wrong. So it lives in Umbraco and data, he says. And then you can see I have an Umbraco 10.sqlite.db, which is the file-based database that's running this site. So that's super, super nice. That's cool. One, we can definitely check it is our database. I have a Visual Studio Code extension. I think I searched for SQLite. And if I right click the file and click open database, I get some pane down here for this extension. And then we can see that we've got all the usual database tables that we would expect.
Ah, that's neat.
So we know it's definitely, I'm not doing no magic tricks here. It is what we say it is. So yeah, that's the back office. This is all running nice and speedy on my, look, it's even an ancient Mac, it's not even new. Look, about this Mac is, look, from 2013, and it's still really, really snappy. So like, there's no excuses. If you've got a brand new machine, a machine, this will just fly away. So that's really good to see. There was one other thing I wanted to demo though, and that's configuration changes. And config changes that we have in .NET now is obviously it can come from anywhere, app settings, environment variables, and bits and pieces. But Bjarke and the team have worked on getting the configuration values to kind of live update or live reload. So if I modify a configuration value, I don't have to stop the site, restart the site for that configuration value to take change. I'll do a quick demo of one just here. So for example, if I go to settings on the log viewer, you can see that log level is set to info or information. And if I go to Visual Studio Code and let's go to my app settings, and as it's a development version, I'm just going to change the Siri log minimum level and the default from information, let's change it to warning. And I save this. You can still see the site is running. I haven't stopped it. And I'm literally just going to do a refresh. And the log level has changed to warning. So super nice. Obviously,
nice.
I could capture different log levels. I haven't to have stop the site. Super useful, maybe in production environments, if obviously the environment, but you could be doing it from an environment variable or some other source rather than a file on disk with app settings. But it means that I can quickly toggle and get some more login information at runtime in production. Maybe the customer's reporting an error, and we can turn that on for an hour or so and get some more detailed logs and then turn it back. So that's one area. There is many other areas. I talked to Nikolai, who done the PR. I can't go through them all, but another one he wanted me to quickly mention was the health checks. So if I run all these health checks, and I think it was the security one he said was probably the best one. Yes. So there's one here for HTTPS. You're not currently viewing the site using the HTTPS scheme. Oh. Was that what I'm supposed to do? Oh, yeah, there's the info for it even. I need to use HTTPS, that's the key. You can see it's set to false at the minute. So if I go back to Visual Studio Code and then I got to find it. So where is it? Umbraco CMS global use HTTPS. It's not already there, but we'll add it. Use HTTPS and we'll set it to true and we'll save it. Obviously, I can't refresh here, but if I click check group, it will go and check and talk to the server again. Come on. Now I'm wondering it's because I might have connected to the site on the non-SSL, which I think port 9000 is the non-SSL one. Let's just quickly skim to the top.
That will be a problem.
Perfect.
A few moments later.
Perfect.
Yes.
Right. Let's go back to the back office. And then let's go back to that health check. Check all groups. Is that number gone up?
No, still the same.
Oh, it is correct. It say you are viewing from HTTPS. That's correct. But
but the app saying here
it's set to false, so that's correct.
Trying to catch me out.
You do go fast, Warren. You do go really fast.
That's why. Yeah. So yes, it does work. Trust me. It's just me. I think it's user error is part of the problem here. But yes, health checks, login, and various other bits and pieces, and some of the configuration now is live reloading, so to speak, in terms of not having to stop the site and restart it. So that is what I had to demo. So I will hand it back to you, Rune.
Yes, very nice. And I just wanted to kind of underline with the switch to SQLite that what we're saying now is that Umbraco is fully cross-platform, has full cross-platform support. Part of that is due to the embedded database, and then also maybe doing things a little bit differently at the when we're developing Umbraco, right, Bjarke?
Yes. So the development team are on different platforms while developing, so that should be a first line of defense. But we also run our integration tests and acceptance tests automatically on different platforms and different databases.
Yeah, so that should provide some more confidence cross-platform going forward. That's really nice, at least for the internal testing that we do. We are, of course, still very much relying on the feedback that we get from the community as well. They've been crucial in addressing the issues or the kind of the annoyances that were in Umbraco 9, running that on cross-platform, and that's been a driving factor in making Umbraco 10 a lot better.
And also seeing how excited people were about the cross-platform support, because it was something that, you know, we suspected people would be interested in, but when it was available, you know, it was the first thing that people wanted to shout about is oh my goodness, I can run this on my Mac, etc.
Yeah. And it just works, right?
Just works.
Yeah, no fancy
Best you
Docker,
work.
no bells and whistles. It just works, which is nice.
Exactly.
And hopefully we'll get a new set of audience of developers as well. People who are more au fait and comfortable with their Macs and Unix, and will come over and join us building Umbraco
Yeah,
sites.
definitely. It's one of the few times where saying just is actually a good thing.
It's the best, yeah. This is the best reason to just.
Yeah. Very nice. Bjarke, you have a couple of more things to demo for us.
So let's see, the first back to the project is related to nullable reference types. So we align with Microsoft again, and since .NET 6, their templates by default have nullability enabled. So that means when you generate code, you actually have to think a bit different, because everything that was a reference type before now explicit have to be mentioned as nullable. So if you have a string, you can't return null without a warning. You have to say string ? And thereby explicit telling users of your API that this is maybe null. Yes, and as I said, it is enabled by default. You can just disable it, but you can also change these warnings to errors if you add like this. So it's pretty cool. I have a code example again. So if we just overwrite this file. So in this case, I try to use the user service. I try to get a user by a username. So this is returning an user ? Because if I use a username that don't exist, I now know that null is returned. Before in Umbraco 9, it could have been null. It could have been an exception. We didn't know from the signature of the
Might just break.
Of the method.
Could be an empty string, could be nothing.
And as you can see, because I turned warnings into errors, this is now an error, because I didn't check for the null thing. And I really like that. And in Umbraco codebase, we have possible null reference exceptions as errors, so we can avoid them. Also here, I can't return null, as I said, but if I change it, I'm allowed.
Yeah,
that's pretty
really
cool.
Nice. Yeah, it helps write better code, I would say, right?
Exactly. And one thing that is worth noting is even that I disable nullable reference types in my project, so I don't have to care about it. We still have the information available from the APIs. So the Umbraco APIs still tell you this is maybe, or this is nullable. So I like that part.
Very nice.
It's going to make it easier to diagnose errors as well. It's just
yes, so null reference exceptions are the worst of all, because they are usually, you have no information. You just have a method, and it could be anywhere, and it could be any variable.
Great change.
So I really like this feature, but it is something you need to think about, and it's a massive task if you want to opt in an existing project like we did. But if you start from fresh, I would definitely recommend having it turned on. So another thing I want to show is this. So we now use something called Razor Class Library, and we have embedded a lot of files. So here I am in an Umbraco 9 solution, and we have a lot of files that we put into your solution that you're not intended to change. This was the best we could come up with back then. But if we compare with a 10 solution. So the Umbraco folder is not there. So the language files are now embedded in the assemblies. The schema file is moved to the root. All the snippets are embedded, but you can add the same folder structure and add your own if you would like that, but you can also do it through code.
Yeah, so you can override it. If
yeah, and these are all views that we use in back office. So the installer, not found, the page we show when Umbraco is empty, the preview, and so on. Again, you can override them, but you're not intended to do it. So instead, we ship them as a Razor class library. That means it's, yeah, the solution is fairly small now, which is nice. We still ship those files that you are expected to change, like the views.
Yeah.
And yeah, the schema file, we don't have any better solution than shipping it, because otherwise you have to point to a domain, and that would not be equal to your solution. So either you have to update that path every time you update to have the correct settings. So this is still the best we can come up with.
An improvement for sure.
Yeah, we're happy with that. Yeah, but it's worth noting, if you are migrating from 9, you need to remove these folders yourself. But you can just clean before you do it, then it should happen
Automatically, yeah.
Yeah. So this already happened. Now you can see it's an empty folder.
Yeah. Some fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Super cool.
Some more fine print on the release, I guess. We have some updated dependency, and as it is a major release, we also have a couple of breaking changes. Emma, do you want to update us on these?
Yeah, so we've got some updated dependencies. We have, with Umbraco 10, we managed to get most of our dependencies up to date, but the most important ones, let me find them on my screen. Sorry, fellas, I'm working from a laptop screen, so we are in limited space. So the notable updated dependencies are Image Sharp 2 and Image Sharp Web 2. This means that we've got WebP support, which has been much requested, so it's cause for celebration. Then we've got Examine 3 and Poco 5. AngularJS is up there, 1.8.3 and Diff 5. And this might cause some breaking changes for package developers. So it's something for them to look at. One of I'm always cautious when I say this, but the breaking changes are relatively small. So let's think of relatively in terms of this. And it also depends really what you're building and how you're building it. But the feedback that we've had has been fantastic, because generally it just requires, let's take out the jest. Generally, it requires that package developers recompile. And the feedback we've had has been incredibly encouraging, hasn't it? We've all noted that lots of people have been talking about the ease of upgrade in terms of package development, to the point where we decided to speak to some of the package developers and ask them for their very, very honest opinions. And we did that.
Yeah, you wrote an entire blog post, right?
Wrote an entire blog post. We had no shortage of people that wanted to comment. We had things like, we'd try again, now we're talking, it just works, it just works. And when you hear that from package devs, you know you're doing well, because they're the ones that are going to have the drama. But yeah, we found it to be relatively drama-free. And we've also had some fantastic community support from Matt Brailsford, who has been really helpful during the release candidate cycle, the feedback loop. Every time we've put something out, he's managed to give us some feedback from a commercial package developer's perspective as well. So it's something quite large that he's building and working with, and that two-way street has really helped us to iterate really quickly and to build something that works. for everyone as quickly as we can. So it's been a really positive experience for us, at least, and certainly for the people that have been in touch.
Yeah, definitely. I think like you can already see the outcome of it. We've been releasing more versions of the release candidates than we have been previously, right? So making sure to get it out for people to be able to test and see the report or see the outcome of the feedback as quickly as possible. Basically, we're not thinking that much about the versions of the release candidates anymore. It's like once we have fixed something, once stuff is updated, then just push the button.
And one of the things that's been really, really rewarding around that, and certainly with Umbraco 9 as well, is the more people that get excited and want to play with the things, that the better the information is for us. So it's been such a collaborative effort. People have just been keen. And I think I've been at the first face-to-face meetup I went to a few months ago now, when it was still very cold out. People were saying, these releases are coming so quickly, and I was reassuring people, they might be meters coming quickly, but the path is clear. We're not looking at huge changes. So I was delighted when that was people's experience that they reported after playing with the release candidates. Regular majors, but not huge leaks, not an awful lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's really good to hear. And great to see all of the feedback and involvement in the majors. I mean, we could just go on. We're talking about community feedback. There's also been a bit of community involvement in this release, Emma.
Yes,
there's a few people to shout about, I think.
We've got some people to thank. So of the 64 fixes and feature additions, 12 of them were contributed by community, and that's from 9 unique contributors. So we want to say thank you to Chad. Some people are known by first name only. Nice, Chad. He's Chad. Matt Brailsford. We've got Henk Jan Plume. We've got Kevin Jump, Patrick Luge. We've got Bjarne Fisterburg, we've got Asbjørn Ries-Knudsen, we've got Russell and Eric van Westendorp. So thank you so much for all of the contributors, but also it's just so wonderful, when the people using the product, building the product, it is the best it can be. So yes, massive round of applause to our community. We've planted some trees to celebrate as we do.
Fantastic, very nice. All right, I think to tie it all off, we will take a quick look at where to actually get the release. Now, you can get it from NuGet. If you go to the download page on our umbraco.com, you should be able to get all the information there in order to install it, get it up and running on your computer, whether it's a Mac or a Linux machine or a Windows machine. It all just works now. And also just quickly wanted to show that, of course, Umbraco 10 is now running on Umbraco Cloud as well. As always, the latest releases are available day and date on Umbraco Cloud. And as you can see here, I've just spun up a new project. It's running Umbraco 10. Forms 10, deploy 10. And yeah, it all just works like you expect it to. And you can also see here, when we go in and create a new project, let's just create a starter one. See, Umbraco 10 is part of the whole experience. So we've obviously recorded this a day or two before the actual release. So Umbraco 10 will be the default when you create a new project on Umbraco Cloud. Same goes for when you're taking a demo, that will also be, or trial on Umbraco Cloud, that will also be Umbraco 10. So it doesn't really get much easier to get going with the latest and greatest version of Umbraco. Cool. Well, I think that pretty much covers at least what we've noted down about Umbraco 10. Well done, to the entire development team. Definitely massive achievement once again. And I also think a big applause to both Emma and Warren on the community happiness team. You've been a big driver in getting all of the feedback that we really need for these releases, right? So by doing Umbraco Labs, writing blog posts, talking to the community, we've seen a lot of engagement. That's fantastic.
We've also seen a lot of packages available already doing the release date. It's
absolutely fantastic to see, and that goes for both the big commercial packages like Vendor and Usync, but also a ton of smaller packages are already running on Umbraco 10, which is just fantastic. And also, I think a big part of that is also that it kind of speaks to we shouldn't hopefully fear the majors so much anymore. It is what was it? I think we can start calling it a minor major. Back in the day, we called it a major minor. Now it's a minor major, right? So, of course, there can be times where there are bigger fish to fry in a major release. There can be some needed changes. We have a new back office coming somewhere down the line, and that will be a bigger upgrade, right? But by and large, I think you can expect that these major releases are fairly easy to upgrade to.
Yeah,
that's the goal at least.
I actually looked up some numbers from Umbraco 10, and it is around 10 times smaller than 7 to 8 and 8 to 9.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 times.
It's also 10 times faster released, right? So it kind of works out. Almost.
We should compare it to some of the minor jumps instead of the major jumps and see.
I still think the upgrades to some of the minors that we've released in the past were harder. So it's just fantastic to see all this kind of the release cadence and the versioning really maturing. It's great to see, and it's working. So fantastic. Right. I think that's it for this round of unboxing. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone will have a great time upgrading to Umbraco 10, starting new projects on Umbraco 10, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.